Yeah, that's right, that's right. In the morning.
Hi, John Vettese. Welcome to the Philadelphia Globe's Phil Alive. I'm Jen Strogatz, and you're John Vettese.
And in the evening, I smoke two joints with my lover.
Hey, I'm John Vettese. Hey, Jen.
Hey,
Thanks
thanks for being here. You're currently at World Cafe?
I'm at WXPN, yeah. I'm
Nice.
on the air today at 2 o'clock, and I'm doing some production stuff between now and then.
Pretty cool. What's at 2 today?
It's the All Request Saturday.
Nice.
So we didn't do it for a really long time. Like we had the All Request Saturday as a regular thing, and then in 2019, last year, we started doing these Saturday things where every day we were focusing on a different year, because it was like the 50th anniversary of XBN being at Penn. So it was like every day it was like a different one of those 50 years. So there's no All Request show, but it was a pretty popular show. And this year we weren't sure what we were going to do with Saturdays. And then when quarantine happened, Mike and the programming department and Bruce were kind of like, let's bring back the request show. People like it. It's fun. It's interactive. Yeah. So yeah, it's like basically I'm on the air from 2 to 5 playing what people ask me to play. It's really fun.
So people get to call in and you get to take requests like that?
Call in, email in, tweet in, Facebook comment. I don't really get anything on Instagram, thankfully, because that would be a bit much to manage all of those things. But yeah, if people call in, we'll do all the other things.
That's awesome. I'm going to start calling in from now on.
Right on. Yeah. It's me. Do you know Julian Booker? He does our, he does the...
I feel like I'm friends with him on Facebook, oddly enough.
Yeah. I mean, you might know him from like other contexts, because he does live sound at Ardmore Music Hall and other venues around the area. But then he's also on the air on Saturdays and Sundays for Sleepy Hollow. Cool. So he does one week and then I do the other week, and we alternate, go back and forth. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. I love the decade idea. That's very cool.
Yeah.
So you went to school for photography and communications?
Yeah. Journalism.
Journalism.
It was journalism with a focus in photography, and then I had like a minor in like English.
Really interesting. Yeah. So how did you get from that? And well, I guess you did, journalism, obviously, but that got you sort of into radio.
Yeah. So I, out of school, I worked at a newspaper in the suburbs. And then I also was doing freelancing. I was freelancing for the Philadelphia City Paper, which was a weekly paper at the time.
Yeah.
And I was freelancing for some other places, magazines. There was like a paper in Seattle that I wrote for a few times called The Stranger. There was like a bunch of different places that I was like freelancing for. And then around like the mid 2000s, I had left the newspaper job, and my day job was up at UPenn's campus, and I would walk to and from the train station to on campus to go to my job, and I would pass XPN every day. So that's why I kind of started volunteering here, because it's like, oh, I love this radio station. And that's the short version of why I started volunteering here. But that's kind of how I got involved here. And it was just something where like I always kind of wanted to do radio, and at the time that I went to Temple, like there wasn't really a Temple student radio option. It was like WRTI, which is great, but like they only have the only student involvement they have is like on the intern production level end of things, or at least at the time that I went, that was it. So there wasn't really an opportunity for students to like actually get involved in the radio station there. And there was no, like WHIP didn't really exist at the time. So I always had this kind of interest in like, I love playing music for my friends. I want to play music for people. I want to do radio. And like, I never got to do it. So like when I started like volunteering at this internet radio station that we had at the time, it was like, oh, this is perfect. And then that kind of grew into another thing and another thing. And then my job at Penn kind of I started phasing out of that. And then there's an opportunity here, and I applied for it and I got it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So are you happy like that it's sort of like enables you to do your photography too? Like I'm asking it obviously as a photographer, just wondering.
Yeah, I mean, I love it because it's like everything that I'm good at and I like doing, I can do this job.
Yeah, seriously. No, it's literally everything that you went to school for and that you're into. It's awesome. And music on top of it.
Right. It's like when I worked at the newspaper, it was like I was an okay writer, but it was like it was a job that I was able to do, and I was decent at it. And like when I had my job at Penn, it was like kind of doing news writing, but for like it was a program that they did for like high school civics classes to get kids engaged in like current events and news and that sort of thing. And so I was writing news stories, but it was like, I don't know, that wasn't as interesting to me as writing about music and writing about like art and that sort of thing.
Sure.
So it was like I was okay at those jobs, but like the stuff that I was really good at, I was never able to make my job until I came here. So,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's sick. That's a dream job. That's really cool. You're a music writer, but you're also a photographer. And I know that because like I bumped into you at shows all the time, and I like didn't even know that you worked at the Key or XPN or anything. Like I just thought you were like really the chill person to hang around at shows. So oh, and like you saw me almost get killed at Made in America for the little, I think that was Lil Uzi Vert, right?
It was Lil Uzi, yeah. That was the second day of Made in America. It was weird this year because the first day, it felt very not hugely attended.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second day, it was empty all day. And then all of a sudden, Lizzo, Lil Uzi, and who was headlining that day?
It's Travis Scott.
Oh my God.
Security got out of control for Travis Scott. I don't know what was going on, but I actually didn't realize who Travis Scott was before that. I mean, I'd heard him on a bunch of songs, not realizing it was Travis Scott. And he was amazing. I mean, live, he was great.
Yeah. His record, Astroworld, that was like the record he released. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before. Really, really good. But that was intense because I don't know if did you try to shoot his set?
Yeah, I almost got killed.
Right, because you didn't get into the pit, right? Because they weren't right. So I was like, I'm gonna just because there was a DJ on the other stage that I wasn't really interested in seeing before Travis. So I was like, I'm gonna make my way through the crowd. I'm gonna get as close as I can. I've got like a 70-200 on my camera, so I can get some nice long shots. And then he started, and people just like went batshit. And I was like, oh my God! Like
I know.
It was like one of those things where I'm like pinned between four people and my feet are lifted off the ground and I'm like holding my camera, like trying to I got some okay pictures, I think, but it was bonkers.
I gave up on that set. Like I took a few, I ran into like right at that gate near the door to get into the pit. I just stood on the gate for a few photos. But like, other than that, I was like, screw this. Like I'm not risking my life because of Lil Uzi Vert. But like, yeah, people went crazy that day. It was a little crazy. But he's cool. What do you think about Lil Uzi Vert?
Yeah. What do I think about him? I think he's really fun. I think that I don't know that his energy of his live show translates to his records as much, at least not for me. But I've seen him and photographed him like 4 times. Roots Picnic. I shot a show at the Leocora Center at Temple that he did right before Christmas one year that was incredible. Like he at one point jumped off the stage and scaled the side of the bleachers because there was this thing where they made the general admission standing room floor. So the bleachers that would normally kind of tier out, they push back, right? So there's like this wall, and then there's the second level. So he climbs up this wall that's all the bleachers collapsed, is like waving at the crowd, and then like jumps into the crowd. I was like, this is bonkers. He's so fun and so energetic live. It's like one of my favorite concerts to shoot, but like listening to his records, I don't get that same energy, but I think it's just like a different kind of energy. But I appreciate him a lot. Yeah,
no, I understand. I am on the same page with that, except I barely got to see the set, honestly, at Made in America. I went back to the press tent because it was too scary.
Yeah.
So so you run the Key at WXPN. You're the producer / audio video live performance. Oh, you do the Key studio sessions, so you do that too. So how did that come about?
So this goes back over 10 years. We used to have here at XPN a internet radio station, like a side internet radio channel that was entirely staffed by volunteers. And that's how I got started here. And so I was volunteering, doing like on-air shifts on this internet radio station. And my friend Jake Neisenfeld, aka Jake Rabid, was his on-air name. He did the local show on this internet radio station that we had. And there was a week where he couldn't make it because he was in grad school. Like, he's a teacher now, and he was going to school at the same time as doing this and whatnot. And so he asked me to fill in for him on the local show. I knew that there was a West Philly musician that was playing a show like kind of like 10 blocks that way. I'm like pointing up towards 40th Street. He's like playing a show in West Philly the night that I was on the air. So I called them up and I was like, hey, do you want to come in and do like an acoustic thing on the air? Because I'm filling in for my friend on the local show. He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. He came and did it. So I recorded it, right? This musician who had come in from a show before a show they were playing. And when I saw Jake the next time, I played it back for him, and I was like, I did this when I was filling in for you. He's like, this is really cool. We should do more of these. So he started reaching out to friends he knew in the local music community. I started doing the same. This was around the time when Daytrotter was starting. So Daytrotter, do you remember Daytrotter, or should I explain what Daytrotter was? Daytrotter was a website that existed from like the early 2000s to like the mid 2010s. And it was basically like based in, I think, Rock Island, Illinois was the name of the city. And when artists would tour through Chicago or through the Midwest, they would stop at this their studio, record a short live set, and the person who ran the website would post it as like downloadable audio with like information about the band. And like a lot of musicians like broke in a bigger way because of Daytrotter. It was kind of like, do you know Audiotree?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like a precursor to Audiotree, but without video. It was just audio performances. So this was kind of popping at that time, and Jake was like, we should start doing this. So we started coordinating with people we knew, people who we didn't know, and it got to the point where like we were doing it for like a year and a half, and like the Dead Milkmen did our 50th one, which was like crazy.
That's awesome.
And it was originally just in a room like I'm in right now. It was like 3 microphones like this, right? And people playing acoustically at first. And then as we did more of them, people were like, oh, what if I bring in a bass player? Is that cool? Yeah, I think we can figure out how to make it work. What if I bring in like, like hand percussion, like light percussion? That's cool. Yeah, we can put that on the other mic. What if we just bring in our whole band with like amplifiers and like what? So like we were like, sure. So there was I want to say the Loved Ones, which is Dave Halls's old band, recorded. They thought that they were recording in our big performance studio downstairs that's used for the show World Cafe, and that I use now for the Key Studio sessions. But at that time, I was still just using a room this big. So they roll in with like their drum kit and their amps that are like taller than me, and they look at the room and they're like, is this where we're recording? I was like, yeah, I thought we explained that. And then they went out. They kind of like went in the hallway, like went in a huddle. They're like, what do we do? What do we do? And they came back in. They're like, all right, we're going to do it. And they, so that was kind of the point where we realized like, okay, we need to get better space. And my coworker, Jared, kind of heard that we were doing this. And he's like, just learn how to get trained on how to use the studio, the big recording studio, and you can use that room. So that was like 2009, so 11 years ago.
Wow. 2009, 11 years ago. That's scary.
Yeah. So like that's when I got trained on how to use the big recording studio, and we've just been bringing in local people every week ever since. 2010 is when the Key launched, which Bruce and like others here at the station like got an NPR grant to launch for the first couple of years, and they knew that I was doing these studio sessions. They're like, all right, we're starting this local music website. We can use it to showcase these recordings that you've been doing. So that's how these just informal local recordings that I was doing turned into the Key Studio sessions. And just been doing it ever since, kind of evolving. I've gotten better production skills because I didn't go to school for audio. I went to school for like photography and journalism.
You did?
Like, yeah. So it was like
at Temple, right?
At Temple, yeah. So it was like something that I picked up on the way, like audio. I picked it up because I was doing these things for the show. And then I've been doing video for the more recent ones. So yeah, it's been really fun.
That's so cool. No, that's really cool. The backstory is awesome. So where do you find out usually about new music?
I used to find out about them at shows, but they're not happening anymore.
I know.
No, it was like I would go to shows and I would go to see a band that I would like, but I would always get there in time for the openers. And so like a lot of times I would see an opening band from Philly that I loved, and I would kind of like mental note, want to find out more about them. Or I would look at musicians who I know and see who they're touring with, and like check them out, or like venues like Johnny Brenda's. I would like see who's coming up on their calendar. I'm like, oh, I'm not familiar with that band, I'll give them a listen. Or back in the day, I used to do the same thing with like the Khyber when they had shows, the first time they had shows. So that was like one of my primary sources. I like going on Bandcamp, because on Bandcamp, particularly for me, like I'm always looking for Philadelphia bands first and foremost. So like I'll go to Bandcamp. You can search by like the Philadelphia tag. You can search by city and like see, oh, here's all these Bandcamp releases from Philadelphia, and you can sort of see what the most recent stuff is. Like, oh, this came out a week ago. So that's kind of my way that way. And then I just like, I don't know, I get people sending me their music all the time.
Sure.
You know, all those ways.
So, well, leading into what you just said, people sending you music, what is usually the criteria for you to cover that music, or, you know, to cover it on the key? Like, what do you look for?
I just look for stuff that like I think is good.
Yeah.
That's like the primary thing. Like sometimes there'd be stuff where like I don't necessarily, it might not be something that I would immediately think of to listen to on my own. But I'm pretty good at this point of because I've been editing the key for 8 years. My tastes have grown from like mostly indie rock and hip hop at that time into just like cross genre now. Like I listen to, there's like pretty much everything. I mean, I always kind of have, but now I really, really do. So like I'm a lot better at like kind of telling like, okay, this is a really unique and good person in this style that they're playing. So yeah, that's the primary thing I look for. And then, you know, sometimes it's like, this might not be my immediate, like, go-to for like a sort of style of music I want to hear, but I can like see like, oh, this is a really popular band in this like circle of Philadelphia music lovers. So they're doing cool stuff. I can appreciate it. I'm going to, you know, have them come in, or I'm going to write about their music.
Totally.
But like the big primary driving thing is, you know, good. It's got to be something that I recognize as like, this is good stuff.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So what does it usually take for you to put a song into like regularly into the regular rotation, local bands?
Well, I would say the big thing for my local show, which I think is really cool, because like it's separate from the main rotation, which I don't really have much say on, like regular rotation.
Right.
In XPN, I just do my Tuesday night show, and I can play pretty much anything on that show, and I can play different show. You know, I don't have to necessarily have like, okay, here's my heavy rotation songs that I'm going to play every week. Like, I don't often repeat songs. More often what I'll do is I'll have an artist who I really like, who I have 4 or 5 or 6 different songs of theirs that I'll kind of bounce between. More particularly with artists and albums, like new releases, I'll look for an album that has 2 or 3 or 4, or like a project, if it's like an EP or mixtape or whatever. Like I'll look for something that has multiple songs that I would want to play. You know what I mean? So like, rather than, oh, this song is like great and it's like clearly the standout, and then the rest of them, like I look for stuff that like every single one is interesting in its own way. So that way I can mix it up in my show. So I might play, for example, a band like Camp Candle. I might have 4 or 5 different songs of theirs that I will like bounce between, versus having just one song that I hammer all the time, which I think that's something cool about being at a public radio station, because if it was a commercial radio station, it would probably be more like you got one song and you got to push the one song. And it's like,
totally.
I like multiple songs.
No way, you do?
Oh, I do.
Not allowed. So what So 2 questions. What are some of your favorite local bands right now? And I mean, I probably already know the answer to this, but local venues favorites.
Local venue, definitely Johnny Brenda's. I go there very often. It's like a really good vibe, really good sound, really good experience, really good restaurant downstairs, really good everything. They've been really awesome in recent years to let me and my DJ partner Scott have some DJ nights in there downstairs too, which is really cool.
Really?
So kind of get to it's like quarterly, I want to say.
Okay.
So it's like it's usually like a Tuesday or Wednesday night. It's like a chill thing.
Nice.
But so it's like I get to like work with them in addition to like going to shows at them. So like I really like that space. Boot and Saddle's cool as well. I feel like I probably go to most of my shows at one of those 2 places because I tend to go to smaller shows more often. And as far as like bigger venues, I really like Union Transfer. It's just like a good experience all around. Favorite local bands, I would say, obviously if you follow me on Twitter or any social media, you know that I'm a huge Hop Along fan. So anything anything Hop Along related, anything Hop Along adjacent, I think is incredible. Francis Quinlan, the singer of Hop Along, has a new solo record that she put out this year called Likewise. It's really good.
She's fantastic. We put her on the Philadelphia Globe's mixtape volume 2 that we just put out like 2 days ago. I put Francis Quinlan. She's amazing.
Yeah, she's so good. And she's such a great person. She's a great DJ too. She DJs at the International in Fishtown.
Oh, really? I didn't. Yeah. I mean,
back when we could DJ.
Way back when there was like that kind of stuff happening.
A lifetime ago.
Yeah.
But I also, I mean, another one of my all-time faves is probably Dr. Dog. I've seen them, Jesus. After the last time they played the Met, my wife and I were kind of like doing a mental tally in our head. And we're like, I think we've seen them over 20 times, which is like kind of ridiculous. We've seen them we saw them in England.
Wow.
Because we were traveling a couple of years ago, and we were in London and had a night where we didn't have anything to do, so we like kind of looked up to see what was going on. It's like, I'll be damned, Dr. Dog is playing at the Oslo Hackney. Let's go to the show. So yeah, I've seen. They're fantastic. And I also there's like a lot of. I mean, The Roots also like one of my all time favorite bands. They were probably like the first Philly band that I ever really listened to and knew like, oh, this is a Philly band I'm really into.
Totally.
And then there's like a lot of just like really smaller, like up and coming type people. Like there's an artist named High Noon that I really like, who does kind of like a bit indie poppy singer-songwritery stuff. There's an electronic artist named Kilimanzigo who does like really interesting, like kind of deconstructed beats that I love. Swim Camp is great. Rachel Andy is a singer-songwriter who's fantastic. Oh my God, I could like sit here and name names for like forever.
Go for it.
But yeah.
What advice do you have for bands or artists that you think are not quite ready yet to be played on the Key or XPN, World Cafe?
I mean, just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, usually I feel like a lot of people do kind of put a lot of emphasis into promo and like push in that regard. And I think that's good to have that skill, but that shouldn't be everything. You know what I mean? Like you don't want your stuff to get featured on the air or online or whatever just because you've been annoying people and like following up. Like having follow up is a good thing, but I think I wish more artists would take the energy that they're putting into incredible amounts of follow up and put that into like their creative craft too. Because I mean, I think you can always keep working on something, but that's also like a rabbit hole that you can easily fall down. You know what I mean? Like you could easily be like, I'm going to be a perfectionist and I'm going to keep working on the song, keep working on this record, and keep working on this project until I think it's perfect. But then it's like it never comes out. So it's like there's got to be a happy medium in there. But yeah, I think don't give up on what you're doing, and don't put like don't have getting featured on the Key or on World Cafe or on any radio station or media outlet be your end all be all. Like, you should be making music because you want to make music. And I am rambling here.
No, it's okay.
No, I'm saying no, and the reason I say that is because if you kind of make the end goal getting featured on the Key, then it's like, what's next from that? Like, you should just be doing stuff to constantly better, like, you know. I'm sorry.
No, you're not. No, I'm totally on board with what you just said. Like, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like, some people like put too much energy, I think, on trying to get it, featured or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you could spend that time working on your craft and perfecting things. And I agree. I understand what you're saying.
I think, and another thing I would add is, and this kind of goes into that, like, you have to have like lots of different skills going on. Like I said, a lot of people are really strong on the promo, and I wish they would put some of that energy into like the more creative side. But then I think another skill that is important to have is like the kind of like long range planning side. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I see a lot of times, more particularly back when we would be able to have shows, but I would see artists who were putting like all their energy into this album release and this big album release show at whatever venue they're playing at, the Foundry or Milk Boy or whatever. And it's like, they do all their push for that, and then the show happens and it's great and all the people turn out, and then it's like, but then what?
Right.
And then it's like nothing until like they play other random local shows until their next release. And it's like, you should kind of be looking to branch out a bit more. Yeah.
Do you think that sort of has something to see for the Philadelphia Globe? I think that a big mission is sort of amplifying local artists to the point like outside of Philadelphia, because I feel like we have so much talent. There's so much, and it feels like there's been something over the years that it's hard for people to push past Philly. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you think that sort of correlates to that?
Do I think that what correlates to
that what, like how you just said, like people have like a show, for instance, and then what? Like, right. Instead of like, oh, hey, I just played this show. Hey, audience, like I'll be here next week,
Right.
Instead.
Yeah, I think it is important, I think, to for bands to get out of like, once they've kind of honed their craft locally, it is important for them to think bigger and get out of the city and try to expand. But that's definitely easier said than done. And I've known lots of bands who have, done the whole, I'm going to go to South by Southwest and I'm going to get signed thing. And like, South by Southwest is a fucking shit show. And I'm so glad that it didn't happen this year.
I was too. Don't tell.
I mean, a bummer for like the musicians who are kind of like planning on things there and counting on that. But it's just such a mess. It's so not relevant, I think.
Yeah.
But like so many people think it is, and artists would like go. I've known multiple artists who've like planned tours that they just completely book themselves, where they're playing like random ass venues on random ass nights just to get themselves to Austin, play South by Southwest, where they're going to get like, we're going to play on the street, we're going to get signed, whatever. And then they don't. And then they get frustrated and then they break up on tour home because it's such a bad experience. And I'm laughing. That's not funny. It's sad.
It's kind
of a bummer. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so it's like that's definitely like a difficult thing. Like, how do you tour and how do you get good shows when you're touring? And it's like, how do you build those connections? And I mean, I think a lot of it is like getting comfortable with the idea of like, I'm going to go to Peoria, Illinois and play a small show for like 30 people. And I don't know, I may break even, I may lose money on it.
Right.
but like I'm going to keep going, and then I'm going to play Chicago, and I'll have like a better crowd there. And it's like, you know, getting used to that gamble of doing it, and then just doing it more and building. And like it's really difficult. I've never done it because I know that I wouldn't be able to do it.
Me neither. No, I don't envy artists that, you know, are trying to build their careers. Do you think that, so basically what you're saying is sort of like, you know, redefining what you think in your head of as like a musician or a band, like being successful, like for an artist, they need
absolutely.
to,
absolutely. Like redefining success for yourself is important. I think that it's like, I don't think we're seeing as many bands, you know, go from, you know, playing small Johnny Brenda's size places to playing like Fillmore or the Met or whatever, huge things, without some sort of weird like industry smoke and mirrors behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I think it's more common for bands to like kind of have that Johnny Brenda's to Underground Artists to Union Transfer level like crowd consistently over like a longer period of time. And, you know, if you do that right, you can sustain yourself. If you're comfortable with like Union Transfer size crowd, 1,000 capacity size crowd is going to be like my max, but I'm going to have it for 20 years is better than like, I'm going to play Wells Fargo Center and then I'm going to be nobody in a year and a half. You know what I mean?
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's all like speaking in like generalities, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But, you know, I think if you go into it with more like tempered expectations and realizing like, this is going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be a lot of weird fun too, then.
What would you tell artists who are sending you their music and following up and doing all that stuff? How would you say for people to typically, what's your advice for people, how they should approach somebody from XBM? Such as yourself or Bruce Warren.
I would say that everybody kind of has their own preferences for how they like to be approached about music or how they like to have music submitted to them. I'm very open. So if people want to email me, my email address is johnb@xbm.org. I'm really easy to get a hold of. I try to be responsive, especially when it's, I can tell that there's a local artist on the other side of the email who is like emailing me independently and of their own, like that is not like a MailChimp bot sending me an email. And it's an actual person on the other side. I always try to like get in touch, like get back in touch, and give them some feedback. So I'm really easy to get a hold of that way. Some people I work with prefer to get physical stuff sent to them because they're a little bit more old school. Some people do not want artists reaching out to them at all. They prefer to get submissions through their industry contacts. So it's like, it really depends on the person. And I think the best thing to do would be reach out to the person some way, either via contact on our website or via social media, and find out like, hey, I'd really like to get this song to you to listen to, or this record to listen to. What is your preferred way of receiving it? And then the person can let you know. Usually, I think even like the crankiest of our hosts, not to knock any of my coworkers, but like they'll be responsive in some capacity,
right.
you know.
Right.
But that way you're not like invading people's like space as far as like, I don't want this sent to me this way. Why, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's one thing. And I think another thing is submitting a song or two songs that you think showcase your project the best, and have that be like the focus. Like, here, check these out first, and if you're interested in hearing the whole thing, here's a link to stream the whole thing, or here's a link to download the whole thing.
So don't send you like 20, you know,
right.
Sarcasm.
Well, make it an option, you know, make it like, here's my catalog on Spotify, or here's my Bandcamp page, but like, here are the songs that I really want you to listen to.
Yeah.
So that way, if you send me a Bandcamp link and I just go and listen to the first thing, and it turns out that like, oh, that project is like, you know, 4 years old, and like these ones that are like a bit further down, that would probably happen more on Spotify than Bandcamp, because Bandcamp sorts chronologically. But you know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm blindly sent a link to somebody's page and I just press play on the first thing, it might not be the thing that's like most representative of what you
absolutely.
Yeah.
So like, they should be directing you to their best stuff, obviously.
Correct.
Nice. Yeah.
Totally.
Cool. So, yeah. Any other advice you would have for local artists?
Going back to like the whole, I want to try to better articulate what I was saying about don't make the key your end goal, or don't make XPN Airplay your end goal. I think, I think that, like, make that a goal, but don't like give up if I say I'm not into something, or if Bruce says he's not into something, or Dan or whatever. I think, you should take that and kind of be like, all right, cool, I'm going to work on this a little bit more. And then I might approach them again. I love being wrong about things, which is a weird thing to say, but like, I've definitely had a few artists reach out to me, send me a song, and maybe it was like a shitty day when I got the song, or maybe I'd been listening to like 5 or 6 or 7 other things, and I click on the song that's like, it didn't grab me in the first minute or two, and I was kind of like, pass, and I move on to the next thing. And then like I revisit those artists later on, or I see them live and they click live in a different way, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna go back and listen to that song they sent. And I'm like, this is actually great, and this other stuff they put out is even better. And then I, kind of come to artists later. That's happened so many times to me. And I'm totally okay with that, because it's like, that's just, I think what I meant when I said, don't put all your hopes in getting, featured on the key or by me, is like, I don't think my opinion is the definitive anything. I don't think it's like
it's not.
I think that my opinion is reflective of my opinion, and that's it. And I did recognize that was sarcasm. Or was I not sarcasm? No, but like I think that my opinion is just reflective of my opinion on the day that I listen to the thing, and it's like I can go back and be wrong about it or right about it or whatever. So I think that like being persistent and like being okay with like not rejection, but like, I usually try to be, even when I tell people I'm not into something, I usually try to tell them like, reach out again with more stuff. I want to hear more stuff. I just wasn't feeling this particular track. And some people take that as like, oh, I'm going to reach out again 2 weeks later and show you and send you another song that I recorded at the same time. It's like, no, that's not what I mean. I mean, like, down
like it wasn't that good. No, I'm just kidding, but you're really nice about it, I'm sure. But then again, like, music is so personal, so you never know. But I mean, I think that's really good advice for people to have, because I think that, local, and also being an artist, like, people are sensitive, and just to take it with a grain of salt sometimes. And two, so would you say the key, like what you do differently from like World Cafe has like a different type of audience, or like that your genres are different that you focus on?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, because I know you guys have the, very wide range of stuff, but like you have a specific audience, and yeah,
I think that like World Cafe and The Key are similar in that we're both cross genre and that we kind of cover a little bit of everything. World Cafe might be a bit more focused on singer-songwriter than The Key is. The Key might be more focused on like, indie rock bands or hip hop artists than World Cafe is, but we both cover a little bit of everything, genre-wise, style-wise. I think that The Key's audience, I think, is primarily like Philly regional.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of people who pay attention to us in this kind of like Philly, Central PA, Lehigh Valley, like kind of XPN listening area, Jersey, Delaware, like that whole radius around us. I think there's people who pay attention to us there, but then World Cafe is getting people who pay attention to them all over the country and around the world too, because they're nationally syndicated NPR program for around 25 years. So it's like 30 years, I guess, at this point.
For 30 years, Bruce told me. I was like, my whole life, literally.
That's wild.
So, John Vettese, it's been amazing having you and talking to you and learning more about you. I knew nothing about you, actually. I just thought you were my like photographer friend in the pit, seriously.
Thanks, man. This has been fun. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for doing this. This is Phil Live at the Philadelphia Globe. I'm Jen Strogatz, John Vettese at XPN right now, doing his thing, 2 p.m. today, and I'll see you next time.
I wake up on my tiny bed trying to figure out